first, more turmoil today inside the former coalition, with the Nationals leader David Littleproud likely to face a spill motion when Parliament returns next week.
We do have to get this coalition back together again, and that is why I'll announce to you right here today, you heard it first, I will be moving a spill motion on Monday afternoon in the National Party room to give my colleagues an option, because the reality is if they follow the course they're on now, we are going over the political cliff.
Look, I don't want to be unkind here because he's a good bloke, but Colin Boyce has probably only got one vote in the party room, and that's his own. And pulling on a spiel is as much about giving himself a plausible way to quit the Nationals when he loses, given he's in a fight with his own party, the LNP, and looks set to move to the crossbench anyway. That said, anything can happen if a spill is moved. If Boyce can get someone else to second his motion, well, no one can say where it's going to end up. Meanwhile, if the polls are right, Pauline Hanson and One Nation are going from strength to strength and now have more support than the Liberal National Coalition that's governed Australia for 2/3 of the past 70 years. Last week's news poll had One Nation at 22%, 1 point higher than the Coalition, and that's before they blew themselves up over their support for Labor's deeply flawed and rushed hate speech laws. Well, at least the Liberal Party did. Today, there's also an essential poll in The Guardian that's got One Nation ahead of the Libs and the Nats. As well, there was a preferred PM poll yesterday that's got Hanson streets ahead of opposition leader Susan Lee, who herself is likely to face a challenge in the next few weeks. Also today, in the first ever Sky News Pulse poll, and we'll get to that in a moment, we'll pull it apart with our election analyst, Tom Connell. Well, we've got One Nation surging to a 25-point primary, well ahead of the Libs and the Nats. They're on 20%, and Labor there on 31%. The other strong message from the Sky poll is that voters want immigration down. They want it down fast and far. 64% of Australians say our immigration rates are too high, and 43% say it's far too high. Now, sure, a lot of the poll support for One Nation's a protest vote by Conservatives, but I tell you what, it's a worry. And are they listening? Because for years and years, so-called Liberal strategists have said that the party has to move to the left on climate and identity issues in order to win back Teal seats, even though the party has fallen harder and faster ever since it went to the left on these issues, and it's failed to stem the increase in the number of seats the Teals have in the parliament. Even though, too, the only proven way that the Liberals have ever won seats is when they've been a clear and strong alternative to Labor. Think John Howard from 96 to 2004, Tony Abbott in the 2010 and 2013 elections. Whenever the Liberals have tacked to the left, as they did under Malcolm Turnbull, in that case, it was the loss then of 14 seats and almost government in 2016, they have got themselves into trouble. See the stupidity here? These so-called strategists have assumed that Conservative voters have nowhere else to go. Well, if it wasn't obvious before, it should be now. They do have somewhere else to go, and increasingly, they're looking pretty happy and settled in that new home. Because what we're seeing here is not just one or two rogue polls. It's fast becoming trend, a movement away from the former coalition to One Nation, and a vote shift that's starting to lock in and grow. Now, One Nation might not have well-developed policies and a whole slate of well-known and competent candidates, but that doesn't matter right now. Voters are looking for someone to ventilate the worries that they've got, to talk about the issues they're talking about, not to sweep them under the carpet or, when asked about them in the media, not fudge a response with political spin. Because they know when Hanson says she's against net zero, she wants immigration down and supports symbols like the flag, they know she means it, because that's what she's been saying now for almost 30 years. And it's not just Liberal leaders who've walked away from their Conservative base. There are big problems inside the party organisation that often seems to disrespect its own members. deliberately excluding them from policy debates and a say in democratic pre-selections. I have to say it, at times, the Liberal Party has actively discouraged people from joining, lest they upset the factional balance and threaten the pre-selections of extinct volcanoes sitting in once safe seats. Now listen to this. In Victoria, shortly after last year's election, membership had reportedly declined from some 15,000 to 9,000, with the average age of 68 in the membership. In New South Wales, some 5,000 had reportedly let their membership lapse, and 600 applicants had had their membership refused in recent years. Much as the party organisations now trying to pin the blame on Peter Dutton for last year's catastrophic defeat, he's not the only one who deserves to take responsibility. There has been, since Dutton's defeat, a 10-point slide in their numbers. And that says to me that Dutton is the least of their problems. Now, as you know, I think that Susan Lee's leadership is not viable. At the very start, she pulled the wrong rein by making her leadership all about gender. And yes, she's shown good temperament and grace under pressure. And she has responded very well to the Bondi massacre. But her handling of that horror show week last week in the Parliament was, for me, after the coalition imploded for the second time, the last straw. And because the coalition with the National Party is absolutely essential to the success of the Liberals, it can't be put back together under Lee. Almost everyone I've spoken to now concedes that's the case, that she is terminal because she cannot rebuild the coalition. Hence, this is why Andrew Hastie and Angus Taylor are now considering their options. But, and this is really important, the Liberals would be dead wrong if they think that all they need to do is change the leader. The party actually needs to stand for something. It needs strong and clear policies to make Australia better. And it needs its best warriors on the front bench. It needs to be willing to have a fight with a bad government from day one. And it needs to persuade all those Liberals who are on the verge of giving up on it that it once more is the party of Menzies and Howard. If the party in Canberra and around the country can't lift its game, it's gone. It is that serious. Without urgent change, it is gone.